Well, hello. This is Jenny Fern and welcome to my library. I'm a chaotic neutral and mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books. Today I'd like to talk about authors that I've discovered or read for the first time this year. When I was looking back at my 5-star reviews from 2017, I noticed that there were several authors that I consider some of my favorites now that I had just read for the first time. So I thought it would be fun to go through authors that I'm interested in, that have piqued my interest from this year, that I'd like to look into further and read more of their work if possible. Others who I have read multiple of their works within this year and I'm now considering to be more important to me. Yesterday I went out on the town. There was like a cider tasting event at my local grocery store. The man who was doing the cider tasting kept showing us pictures of like the meat he prepared. I'm a vegetarian and I was just looking at like a photo album of various like giant slabs of meat and I was just like, wow, yeah, that's great. But I also got this print here, which you could probably barely see. It's a beautiful abstract print and it was from a local art gallery that we also visited. I'm going to start by talking about authors that I read multiple of their works this year and that have slotted into authors that I'm genuinely interested in at this point. The first author that falls into that category is Robin Sloan. I read Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore and Sourdough. I really had a very strong vibe with Sourdough. They are a little bit more lighthearted, less serious, a little silly. They're very fun to read and they're about topics that I genuinely have some interest in. They have like a little bit of like a Google tech angle, which I think is a bit unique. So I'm actually really not sure what else Robin Sloan has put out there. I'm gonna keep my eye out. We have a boy coming up onto my lap now that I don't have a huge stack of books on it. I should actually look up what other books he has. So he has another book, which is another Penumbra book, a handful of others, and one that will be coming out next year. I also read from Nagabe for the first time this year with The Girl from the Other Side. I read that entire series. I loved it so dearly. I would love to read other things by this artist. And it looks like there are a handful of other series that I could get into. Man, he's only 30. That's wild. So I would love to read more from this author. We just vibe a little bit. I read the series that's associated with this book, Planetfall, and I had mixed receptions of the subsequent books. Her Planetfall series includes Planetfall, After Atlas, Before Mars, and Atlas Alone. I've read After Atlas and I just didn't really connect with it in the same way that I connected with Planetfall. Anyway, based on how much I enjoyed Planetfall, I think I might be more of a standalone fan of Emma Newman and not exactly a series fan. It looks like she has some urban fantasy work, which I might not be super interested in, and some steampunk work, which sounds pretty interesting. I've never really delved into that. Some short fiction. If there's a short fiction collection, that sounds like something I would really be into. I love short science fiction collections. You get like a fun little teaser of different concepts, and that's one of the most exciting things about science fiction. Then we have something that I'm kind of cheating with, and that is John Barleycorn, Jack London. I read The Call of the Wild last year in like November, December, and I did not connect with it really at all. I did not enjoy the reading experience. Then this year I read his memoirs and I got so much more interested in him as a person that his writing became more compelling to me. Then I read White Fang. Technically it's a very good book. It was very good and it was so gripping, but I just didn't really like it. It just seems a little bit too bleak for me, to be perfectly honest. I am very interested in reading The Sea Wolf. I have a copy of that now, and I think I would like to continue reading Jack London. But if it weren't for reading this book, I don't think I would have really been that interested in him as an author. Now I have an author in a category of his own because I read a lot of work from him and I was interested in reading a lot of his work. I haven't gotten that connection with him, you know what I mean? And that's John Green. I really wanted to read some of his works. I'd never read anything from John Green. It seemed like something that was pretty glaring missing from my reading experiences, especially with talking to other people. I quite liked Turtles All the Way Down. I thought that one was very good. I liked the character quite a lot. The other books that I read An Abundance of Catherines. I feel like I might have read another one, but it's not really coming to me. I'd be interested in reading more books from John Green, but I'm not his target audience with those books. I think he wrote an essay collection, and that seems like something I would be really interested in. Now we get into a stack of books that I read one book from an author and I'm really interested in seeing more from them because that one book was compelling enough. So the first one I have from that is a pretty long one for me. I usually don't sink into lengthy books. That was Doomsday Book by Connie Willis. And this was just so well written, very, very interesting. Like I really wanted to know what was going to happen next. So it didn't, you know, like look at how small the font is and how long it is. I'm genuinely a bit impressed that I read that this year. I do think that there are more books in this kind of series which have to do with time travel, and the way that the history was explored in this book was to such a wonderful degree that I really do think I would like to read more from Connie Willis. I think she did an excellent job. Ooh, so she has novellas as well. So she has standalone novels and novellas, an absolute ton of them. And then there's the Oxford Time Travel books, which Doomsday Book is a part of that. There's 4 of those. And then there's short fiction collections, which again, seems like a wonderful way to kind of learn about an author. That's one of the things that I really loved about reading Karen Russell's short fiction work, is that you can really get a sense for what she's interested in and if you would really connect with her in other works as well. So I think short fiction is a wonderful way to get little tastes of what the author is interested in talking about and seeing if you connect on that level as well. Ray Naylor, who wrote The Mountain and the Sea. Ooh, there's a book coming out January 2024 called The Tusks of Extinction. That sounds cool. Ooh, The Tusks of Extinction is a novella. That's exciting. And then it looks like there's just an absolute ton of short fiction. I also read this year and just absolutely adored The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cake by Amy Bender. So Amy Bender is somebody I should explore. So it looks like there are some older books. There's a book called The Color Master, The Girl in the Flammable Skirt. That one seems pretty interesting to me. So there are a handful of books that I can explore from Amy Bender. There's also this book, Terraformers by Annalee Newitz, which says best-selling author of Autonomous. So I feel like that would be the place to start. Yeah, Autonomous and The Future of Another Timeline, which also sounds very interesting. Lost Cities? A Secret History? Wow. I'm getting really excited. I'm getting really excited about all of these wonderful books that these wonderful people have written. This book by Roderick Townley, The Great Good Thing. And I'm interested in a specific other book written by this author, and all I can remember is it has like a lobster on the cover. The book is called A Bitter Magic. And yes, it does have a little girl on the cover with a lobster. So I'm pretty interested in exploring his other books as well, because I just thought this was so wonderfully written. The other 2 authors that I'm really interested in exploring more from them, I do not have a physical copy of their books, but the first one is Annalise Ryan, A Death in Door County is the book that I read from her, and I would love to continue reading the books that would be in that series because they're just so like Scooby-Doo, X-Files vibes. It's very good. I loved the experience of reading that book. The last one I have for today is Jade Song, who wrote Chlorine, and I loved the experience of reading Chlorine. I'm supposed to look up Jade Song, not Chlorine. So Chlorine evidently was her debut novel, but it does look like there are other works that were published. It was making me really inspired to work on myself as a writer and to continue with my work in short stories and trying to get published as a short story author, because it's really not uncommon for authors to do that kind of work, you know? I feel like when you watch like AuthorTube, very few people are writing short fiction and trying to get short fiction published unless they're in a writing program. I would love to hear the authors that you have read for the first time this year and that you're so excited to read more of. And for the little treat at the end of this video, I think I'd like to go through some of the authors that I read this year that have already been on my list of authors that I'm really interested in their work. A lot of them are classic authors, but I think it would be fun to go through that as well. So I read more Becky Chambers this year. I've read 2 of her works in previous years. I read Long Way to a Small Angry Planet a while back, and I read the second book in that series, Closed in Common Orbit, which I also enjoyed. And this year I read her Monk and Robot books. Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was such a star this year. I read The Old Man and the Sea and loved it to bits. I also read The Sun Also Rises. I read that this year, which I didn't like as much. I read more of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. I read mostly Harmless by Douglas Adams. And Jules Verne. I read Around the World in 80 Days, which is such a silly little book, truly. And Journey to the Center of the Earth, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Journey to the Center of the Earth. Oh, I read a ton of books by Laura Ingalls Wilder. It's not like she's one of my favorite authors or anything. And then H.G. Wells. I read The Invisible Man, and I read The Island of Dr. Moreau, and The Island of Dr. Moreau kicked ass. It was so good. Ooh, I also read Sinclair Lewis. I read Babbitt. In previous years, I've read It Can't Happen Here. Oh, you know what? I also read a few things by Stephen King. I read Elevation and I reread Carrie. Elevation was not very good, but Carrie is so excellent. Neil Gaiman has been kind of like a tempered favorite. I'm interested in his work, but he's not exactly for me. I read The Ocean at the End of the Lane and I thought it was pretty good, but not exactly my thing. John Darnielle. I absolutely loved Wolf and White Van, and I read Devil House this year, and he's one that I'm very interested in, keenly interested in his work, because I feel like there's, again, like a connection. I read Orange World by Karen Russell. Karen Russell is one of my top favorite authors. I love her so much. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I'd love to hear about the authors that you are reading and absolutely vibing with this year. I just want to show you that Louie's been on me and that he's happy and so sweet and that we love him so much. And then I'm gonna have a slice of pie and a cup of coffee. I'm gonna have a true Agent Cooper morning, and I will try to avoid the Black Lodge. Okay, bye!